The Great Galactic Council Hall was a vast, shining structure at the heart of Verelia Prime. Its ceiling curved high above, made of crystal panels that let in the golden light of the system's twin suns. Hundreds of seats circled the chamber, each one for a representative from a different world. The day had started like any other. Delegates spoke in calm voices, discussing trade tariffs, border disputes. In the latest mining rights, the council chamber was a place of order and routine for centuries. It had been the center of power in this region of the galaxy. No ship could travel far without using the council's network of wormhole gates, and the council controlled every one of them. This control had given them unmatched influence. Every species that wanted to grow beyond its home star had to pay tribute or obey council laws. The meeting was proceeding without trouble when a sharp tone rang through the hall. It was the sound of an urgent priority message. The murmurs stopped. All eyes turned toward the massive display that floated above the center table. The council's communication officer, a tall silver-skinned Thauer named Vekran, stepped forward. "We are receiving a long-range alert from the Kepler sector," he said. His voice was steady, but his narrow eyes flickered with unease. The display shifted to show an image of 3 ships moving across the dark void. At first, they seemed like standard transports, but as the data updated, a wave of disbelief rippled through the chamber. "They are human vessels," Vekran announced, "but their speed is beyond any recorded human capability. They have bypassed every wormhole gate and are traveling through open space faster than light." Gasps filled the air. It made no sense. Humans were a young spacefaring species, barely 3 centuries into interstellar exploration. They had relied on council gates just like everyone else. Without gates, no ship could cross the immense distances between stars in any reasonable time. Yet here were 3 human ships, moving as if the old laws of physics meant nothing to them. Counselor Thara of the Veering Confederacy rose from her seat. Her long, scaled arms rested on the table as she leaned forward. "This must be an error. In the readings," she said, "humans cannot travel like this. No one can." Vekran shook his head. "The scans are confirmed by 3 independent stations. There's no mistake. The humans are already within council space." The chamber grew tense. For a long moment, no one spoke. The council had faced wars, rebellions, and even rogue AI uprisings, but this felt different. This was quiet, without warning, yet it threatened the very foundation of their rule. Council Speaker Jorvik, an elder from the Taurian ascendancy, finally broke the silence. His deep voice carried the weight of authority. "We will send an intercept fleet to meet them. I will not have unregistered vessels crossing our space without permission." Before the orders could be sent, another alarm sounded. The display changed again, showing a live feed from the outer defense ring of Verelia Prime. The 3 human ships had arrived. They came without escort, without the protection of any known council codes. Their hulls were a mix of polished steel and dark armor plates. Unlike the smooth, organic designs of many alien craft, they moved with a strange grace, slowing as they approached the station, as if they had made such a journey many times before. The council chamber erupted in questions. How had they entered the system without passing through the known wormhole gates? How had the defense grid failed to detect them? Until they were almost upon the station, no one had answers. The humans sent a single transmission. It was short and direct. "We come to speak. We request entry." The council security teams hesitated. In the past, any species trying to bypass the gates would have been met with force. But these humans had not fired a single shot, had not made any aggressive move. Jorvik exchanged a silent glance with several senior council members. After a moment, he gave a reluctant nod. "Allow them to dock," he said. "But keep every guard alert." Within minutes, the docking bay cameras showed the human delegation stepping out of their lead ship. They were dressed in simple but neat uniforms, dark blue with silver trim. At the front walked a tall man with steady eyes and a calm stride. His presence was not loud, but it demanded attention. This was Captain Mason, leader of the delegation. The Alien guards followed their every movement as they walked the long corridor to the council chamber. The humans carried no weapons, at least none that could be seen. Yet there was something about the way they moved that made even the most experienced guards uneasy. The council members watched from their seats as the humans entered. The room fell. Silent for a moment. All that could be heard was the soft hum of the chamber's air systems. Mason stopped at the center table. He looked around the vast hall, his gaze passing over each representative. His expression remained calm. "Counselors," he began, "we come from Earth. We have developed a new form of travel. We call it the pulse shift drive." A low murmur spread through the chamber. The name meant nothing to them yet, but the fact that humans had arrived here without gates made the meaning clear. This drive, Mason continued, does not require your wormhole network. It does not depend on any corridor or pre-built path. We can travel from one star system to another without crossing your gates at all. The murmur grew louder, mixed with disbelief and worry. Several representatives whispered to each other, their expressions tight. Mason's voice did not rise, but every word carried. "We have not come to threaten you. We have come to inform you. The galaxy is larger than any one council's reach. It is time others had the freedom to see it." The council chamber sat frozen. This was not the language of rebellion, but it was more dangerous. Mason was not demanding tribute, not asking for membership, not bargaining for territory. He was announcing that humanity had stepped beyond the limits the council had imposed for centuries. Jorvik leaned forward, his old eyes narrowing. "Captain Mason, you understand the order of this galaxy. The gates are what bind our civilizations. Together, without them, chaos will spread." Mason met his gaze without flinching. Order built on control is not the only kind of order. Sometimes, freedom builds stronger bonds than fear. The words hung in the air. For a long time, no one moved. The council, so used to commanding others, now found themselves faced with a species that could move faster than they could react. A species that had no need to obey the old rules. Some delegates were angry, others were curious, many were afraid. But all of them understood one thing: this was only the beginning. Far above the station, the three human ships waited, silent and patient. They had crossed the impossible distance to stand here. The galaxy would never be the same again. The docking bay of Varelia Prime was rarely this tense. Lines of armed security guards stood in perfect formation, their eyes fixed on the airlock doors. The order to allow the human delegation had been given, but no one knew what to expect. Through the thick glass, the human lead ship could be seen, its hull reflecting the light of the twin suns. Its shape was angular but balanced, not overly large, yet it carried a sense of purpose. The other two ships waited just behind it, drifting silently in the dock's holding area. The airlock cycled open with a steady hiss. Out stepped Captain Mason, followed by 5 members of his crew. Their uniforms were clean and simple dark blue with silver shoulder markings. Each one carried a small case, the contents unknown. The guards tensed but made no move. The humans walked without hurry, as if they were guests rather than intruders. Mason's gaze was calm. Scanning the faces of those who watched, council escort officers stepped forward. "You will follow us to the chamber," one of them said, his voice formal but tight. Mason nodded once. "Lead the way." The walk to the council chamber was long. The corridors were lined with tall glass walls showing the vast city below. Varelia Prime stretched out in layers, shining towers, floating transport lines, and landing platforms shaped like petals. It was a place designed to impress visitors with the council's wealth and order. But the humans did not seem impressed. They looked, but they did not stare. Their steps stayed steady. It was as if they had seen greater things, or perhaps they were simply not here to admire. When the large double doors of the chamber opened, the gathered council members leaned forward. The arrival of the human delegation drew every eye. Mason led his crew to the center circle, stopping at the speaking platform. Jorvik, the council speaker, rose slowly from his seat. His tall, robed figure towered over most others, and his voice carried clearly, "Humans, you enter our space without permission. This is a breach of galactic law. Explain yourselves." Mason kept his hands behind his back. "We come to share news," he said. "Our people have created a new drive. We call it the Pulse Shift Drive. It allows us to travel between stars. Without your wormhole gates." The chamber erupted in low voices. Delegates turned to one another, disbelief and concern mixing in their tones. Counselor Thar spoke next, her sharp eyes fixed on Mason. "That is impossible. Without gates. Faster than light travel tears ships apart. Every species learns this early in their space age. You cannot simply change the laws of physics." "We have not changed the laws," Mason replied. "We have found a way to work with them differently." Counselor Vreeken of the Telluri Alliance leaned forward. "And you chose to test this by crossing into Council space without clearance?" "Yes," Mason said plainly. "We wish to show proof, not words. Your own scanners have confirmed our speed." This answer did not calm the room. In fact, it made the air heavier. The Council had always maintained its authority by controlling access to the galaxy's most efficient travel routes. The gates were positioned at key star systems, and every major journey required passing through one. The system was old and powerful, and now, perhaps, fragile. Jorvik raised a hand, bringing the noise down. "What is it you want from us?" "Nothing," Mason said. "We are not here to bargain or to ask for entry. We are here to inform you that we have this drive, and that the galaxy will soon have it as well. We will not keep it to ourselves." The silence that followed was sharp. Counselor Vreeken narrowed his gaze. "You would give such technology freely? That will cause chaos. Every border, every trade route, every defense plan would collapse." "Perhaps," Mason said, "but it will also give every world the chance to travel without chains. You have used the gates to control trade, to decide who prospers and who does not. That age is ending." The words struck the chamber like a hidden blow. Even those who had little power knew what it meant. If the pulse shift drive worked as claimed, the Council's rule over travel would be broken. Thar's voice hardened. "You speak as if you are the only ones who could make such a change. Do you think other species would not guard this technology for themselves?" Mason looked at her directly. "We have discussed this among ourselves. We decided that no one should control it alone, not even us. That is why we will share it openly." The Council members exchanged glances, some skeptical, others calculating. Vekran, the silver-skinned communication officer, stepped forward with a datapad. "We have monitored your arrival," he said. "Your ships entered the system without using any gate. Their energy signatures do not match any known drive. We would like access to examine one of them." Mason shook his head. "Not yet. First, you will see it work. Then you will understand why we came." Jorvik frowned. "And if we refuse? If we declare you a threat?" Mason's voice stayed calm. "We did not come with weapons raised. If you wish to call us a threat, you may, but it will not change what we have already done. The pulse shift drive exists, it works, and it will spread. Whether you approve or not." The quiet that followed was not agreement, it was something heavier. The delegates were processing the idea that their centuries-old control might be gone in an instant. One by one, the human crew opened their cases and placed small, palm-sized devices on the speaking platform. They looked simple, just metal shells, with a faint blue core. Mason explained, "These are navigation beacons. They allow our ships to track position during shifts. We will leave them here. Study them if you wish." The humans turned as if to go, but Jorvik called out, "You will not leave yet. The Council must decide how to respond." Mason stopped and faced him. "We are already here. That is your response." Without another word, the humans left the platform and walked toward the exit, their calm departure only deepened the unease in the chamber. After the doors closed, the room broke into a storm of voices. Some demanded immediate military action. Others argued that such a drive could not be real. A few whispered about what might happen if it was real and how smaller worlds might rise against Council control. Jorvik sat back in his seat, silent, his mind turning. The humans had walked into the heart of Council power without fear. That alone was a message. But the greater message was in their ships, waiting quietly in orbit. If they could cross the void without gates, they could appear anywhere, anytime. No wall, no checkpoint, No blockade could hold them. The council had faced many challenges, but never one like this. The uninvited guests had brought not an army, but an idea. And ideas could be more dangerous than fleets. The next morning, the council chamber was not calm. The usual quiet before a session was gone. Delegates spoke in hurried tones, their voices echoing off the high crystal walls. The human visit had shaken them more than they wanted to admit. For centuries, every civilization in this sector had accepted the same truth: faster than light travel without wormhole gates was impossible. The gates were ancient technology, discovered long ago and expanded by the council into a vast network. Every journey between stars passed through their control. But the humans had stepped into the chamber with proof in their arrival alone. If they could do what they claimed, then the council's greatest source of power was no longer theirs alone. When the humans entered again, they did not bring speeches or demands. Mason walked to the center platform, standing with quiet confidence. His crew stood behind him, each carrying a small device shaped like a flat ring. Council Speaker Jorvak's voice was sharp. "Captain Mason, you have made a claim that shakes the foundation of our order. If you cannot prove it today, we will consider your arrival an act of deceit, and you will be detained." Mason met his gaze without hesitation. "We will prove it. We ask only that you watch." He signaled to one of his officers, a young woman named Lynn, who stepped forward and placed one of the flat rings on the table. The device lit with a faint blue glow. Mason explained, "This is a shift anchor. It marks a destination point for a pulse shift jump. Unlike your gates, it does not create a tunnel. It simply provides a stable point to emerge from faster than light travel." Counselor Thara narrowed her eyes. "You are saying you can appear at any anchor, no matter where it is, at any anchor," Mason confirmed, "or even without one. If navigation is calculated well enough, the anchor simply makes it safer." Vekran, the silver-skinned communication officer, stepped forward. "And where will you demonstrate this?" Mason looked toward the large star map that floated above the chamber. "We will send one of our ships to the Kepler-60 system. Your own records show it is 12 light years from here. Normally, even with your fastest gates, such a trip requires the jumps and almost 2 days of travel. We will go there and return in minutes." The council reacted with disbelief. Some delegates muttered that it was a trick, that the humans had hidden a ship there beforehand. But Jorvik silenced them with a raised hand. "We will observe," he said. "But know this: if you are lying, you will not leave the station." Mason gave a single nod. "Understood." The demonstration was moved to the council's observation deck, a vast circular platform with a clear dome that looked out into space. From here, they could see the 3 human ships waiting in high orbit, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. Mason spoke into a small communicator. "Scout 1, prepare for demonstration. Anchor coordinates set to Kepler-6 to B. Confirm ready." The voice answered through the translator system, calm and precise. "Ready, Captain." The small human scout ship drifted forward, its engines glowing faintly. It was a simple design, not heavily armed, but every alien eye was fixed on it. Mason raised his hand. "Begin shift." The ship flickered. One heartbeat, it was there. The next, it was gone, vanished without any wormhole flare, without any corridor opening. The space where it had been was empty. Gasps and low voices spread through the observation deck. Jorvak's eyes narrowed. "Where is it?" Mason didn't look away from the empty spot. "Already there." A moment later, the translator system carried the scout pilot's voice. "Kepler-6 to be anchor reached. Local time delay negligible. Standing by to return." Some council members froze. That message should have been impossible. Real-time communication across 12 light years was blocked by the limits of normal physics. But the humans had apparently bypassed even that by sending the signal through their shift link. Mason gave the return order. In less than 10 seconds, the scout ship reappeared exactly where it had been, sliding back into formation as smoothly as if it had never left. For a moment, no one spoke. Even the most skeptical council members were silent, their minds struggling to process what they had seen. Thara broke the stillness first. "This should not be possible." The The stresses of faster-than-light travel without a wormhole would tear a ship apart. How did you protect it? Mason answered simply. We learned to bend the space ahead of us rather than pushing through it. Instead of forcing the ship faster than light, we fold the destination to meet us. The journey happens in a single movement, not a sustained speed. That is why we call it a pulse shift. The explanation was simple, but the implications were vast. The council members knew that if this technology spread, their gate network would become nothing more than old architecture. Councillor Vreeken leaned forward. If you give this to others, you will cause chaos. Do you understand the wars that could follow? Pirates, smugglers, even rebels will be able to bypass every border. Mason's gaze did not waver. We understand the risks, but we also understand the value of freedom. The Council has kept entire worlds in poverty by restricting their travel. That will no longer be possible. The words hit hard. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably, some because they were guilty of such control, others because they feared losing their own positions. Jorvik spoke slowly. And if the Council forbids the spread of this technology, Mason answered without raising his voice. You cannot forbid an idea once it is free, even if you destroy our ships. There are more on Earth, and more in allied systems already. Learning to build the drive, you cannot stop this. Silence fell again. The humans had not come with threats, yet their very presence was a threat to the old order. Vekran tried once more. Captain Mason, why come here at all? Why not spread your technology in secret? Why face the Council openly? Mason's reply was steady, because hiding breeds suspicion. We came openly so there would be no doubt, no lies, and no false accusations. We are not your enemy, unless you make us one. He looked out at the gathered leaders. You can choose to fight this and watch your influence collapse in fear. Or you can adapt and help guide this new age in a way that benefits everyone. The choice is yours. The scout ship drifted quietly in orbit, proof that the old rules were broken. The council members stared at it, each one seeing the same thing and to the barriers they had relied on for power. What none of them knew was that the news of this demonstration was already spreading. Human ships had broadcasted across open frequencies. By the time the council decided how to respond, a dozen worlds would already be asking Earth for the pulse shift drive, and the galaxy would never be the same. The council chamber was quieter than usual, but it was not the peace of order. It was the stillness of people planning in secret. The demonstration had ended the day before, yet its impact had not faded. The memory of the human ship vanishing and returning from 12 light years away still haunted the minds of the delegates. In private rooms across Varelia Prime, council members met in small groups. They did not speak of trade or law. They spoke of fear. This changes everything, said Councillor Thora, her voice sharp. If they can travel anywhere without the gates, they can appear above any world. No warning, no border control, no defense network will matter. Councillor Vreeken leaned forward. Worse, they claim they will give this drive to anyone who asks. If that happens, the outer colonies will break free. The smallest species will no longer need our protection or our laws. Our influence will vanish. In another chamber, Jorvik met with senior military advisors. We must learn everything about their ships, he ordered. If we can understand their drive, we may be able to block it or duplicate it. One of the generals hesitated. They will not allow us near the ships, Speaker. Their shields are unlike anything in our records. Jorvak's expression hardened. Then we will not ask. We will take what we need. The first attempt came only hours later. A maintenance drone, disguised as part of the station's repair crew, was sent toward the human flagship. It drifted closer, carrying a package of scanning probes hidden within its shell. The plan was simple: attached to the hull, take detailed readings, and slip away. But as the drone approached, a pulse of light spread from the human ship's surface. The drone froze in place, its systems shutting down. A moment later, a human voice came through the station's open channel. We appreciate your curiosity, but please ask before touching our ships. The message was polite, but it carried weight. The drone was returned, unharmed, yet its memory core was erased. The council had learned nothing. That failure did not stop them. Over the next day, 2 more attempts were made, one with a cloaked probe, and another using a disguised cargo shuttle. Both failed in the same way. The human ships reacted instantly, disabling the intruders without firing a shot. Word of these failures began to leak. Some council members grew uneasy. If they can stop every attempt so easily, perhaps their defenses are stronger than their drive. One delegate whispered. Meanwhile, Captain Mason and his crew remained calm. They continued to dock at the station each day, meeting with representatives who actually wished to speak. A few worlds, especially smaller colonies far from the core, sent envoys to thank the humans for what they were doing, but the majority of the council still viewed them as a threat. On the 4th day after the demonstration, a closed meeting was called. Only the most senior members of the council attended. The discussion was direct. "We cannot allow this technology to spread," said Thara. "If they leave the station, they will go to other systems and hand it out freely. By the time we react, it will be too late." One of the older counselors suggested a blockade. "If we surround their ships with our fleet, they will have no choice but to surrender or negotiate." Vrikan shook his head. "You saw what they did. They can vanish in an instant. A blockade will not hold them. Then we strike before they leave." Another voice said quietly, "Destroy the ships." No ships, no drive. The room fell silent. They all understood the weight of such a choice. Attacking a delegation that had made no hostile move would be an act of war. But some argued it was the only way to protect the balance of power. Jorvik did not decide immediately. "We will act only if necessary," he said. "But be ready." While these plans were being discussed, Mason was aware of the shifting atmosphere. His crew noticed the way station guards watched them more closely now. Doors that had once opened freely were now locked. Even routine systems checks were suddenly delayed by technical issues. One evening, as the humans returned to their flagship, Mason paused at the docking bridge. Through the viewport, he saw a line of council warships moving into position. Farther out in the system, they were not close enough to be threatening yet, but their presence was clear. Lin joined him at the window. "They're moving pieces into place," she said. "Yes," Mason replied. "They're afraid. Afraid people will stop needing them. Will they try to stop us?" "Almost certainly." Mason's tone was steady, but inside he knew the situation was becoming dangerous. Humanity's goal was to share the pulse shift drive without bloodshed. But if the council decided on force, there would be no turning back. The next day, Mason attended a public session in the chamber. Jorvik addressed him directly. "Captain Mason, the council has considered your technology. We believe it is too disruptive to be released without strict oversight. We demand that all human ships carrying this drive remain in council custody until its effects can be studied." Mason stood calmly in the center. "That will not happen. The drive is already in use beyond this station. It cannot be contained." Jorvik's eyes narrowed. "Then you leave us no choice but to protect our stability by any means necessary." A murmur ran through the chamber. Everyone understood the meaning. This was a warning of force. Mason's answer was quiet but firm. "Stability built on control is not the same as peace. You may try to stop us, but you will fail. We did not come to overthrow you. We came to remind the galaxy that the stars belong to everyone." The session ended without a decision, but the lines had been drawn. In the shadowed halls of Varelia Prime, council leaders whispered their final plans. The humans would not be allowed to leave without confrontation. Far above the planet, the human ships waited, their dark hulls reflecting the light of the suns. Inside, the crews prepared quietly, knowing that the next move might decide whether the galaxy entered a new age peacefully or through fire. The meeting chamber of the Stellar Council was silent. The alien representatives sat in their high-backed seats, watching the central display. On it, the human fleet moved through deep space, with a precision that made even the oldest spacefaring species uneasy. Each ship was sleek and carried a strange hum of energy, a sign of the new FTL drive that humanity had unveiled. Councillor Varan of the Velari looked to the others. His voice was calm, but his eyes showed concern. "They move faster than any fleet. We have seen. This is not random travel. They have purpose across the chamber. Counselor Thesna from the Sharon Collective tilted her head. They did not seek permission from us. They did not even inform us of their tests. Now they arrive in systems that have long been watched by the Council. No one answered her. The truth was simple: humanity no longer needed permission. Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship Aurora, Captain Daniel stood in the command room. The walls were lined with holo displays showing charts of space, system after system opening to them. His crew worked in perfect coordination, a result of years of preparation in secret. Status on the jump quarter, Daniel asked. A young officer, Mara, replied, stable and expanding. We can reach Council Sector 4 within 3 jumps. Daniel nodded. Good. Maintain course. The fleet's mission was not to attack, it was to show presence. Humanity wanted the galaxy to know they could go anywhere, at any time. The Stellar Council had once controlled travel lanes and routes. Now those lanes meant nothing. Back in the Council chamber, tension grew. Counselor Vern finally broke the silence. We underestimated them. For years, they built quietly. We saw them as a young race, still learning. Now they move like an old power. Some murmured in agreement. Others looked away, unwilling to admit their mistake. In the outer sectors, alien traders and smaller governments were already reacting. Many of them reached out to human diplomats, seeking new trade and travel agreements. Humanity offered fair terms without the heavy taxes the Council demanded. This alone began to shift loyalty across the galaxy. In the city of New Dawn on Mars, the news was met with celebration. Families gathered in public squares, watching the fleet's journey on giant screens. Children pointed at the ships with excitement, dreaming of becoming explorers. Scientists spoke proudly about the years of research that had made the FTL drive possible. But there were also careful voices among human leaders. Ambassador Claire, speaking from Earth's capital, addressed the United Worlds Assembly. We have the means to go anywhere, but power must be used with wisdom. The Council fears U.S., but fear can turn into open conflict if we push too hard. Her words were heard, but the mood among the Assembly was confident. Humanity had lived under Council rules for too long. Now they felt free. Aboard the Aurora, the 3rd jump was completed. Stars stretched and twisted before snapping back to normal space. Before them lay Council Sector 4, a region filled with key trade stations and supply hubs. Ships in the sector immediately detected the human fleet, and alarm signals spread across channels. Mara turned to Daniel. Sector Command is hailing us. They demand we state our purpose. Daniel looked at the screen, where the face of a tall, thin alien appeared. The alien's tone was cold. Human fleet, you are entering restricted space. You must reverse course at once. Daniel replied evenly. This space is not owned by the Council. We travel where we choose. We come in peace, but we will not be ordered back. The alien said nothing more, and the transmission cut. Daniel knew the message would be taken straight to the Council's central chamber. That was exactly what he wanted. Hours later, the Council convened again. Reports confirmed that humanity had passed through Sector 4 without engaging in conflict. The fleet visited stations, offered supplies, and spoke directly to local governments. Every move was calculated to win allies without firing a shot. Counselor Thesna's voice was tense. If they gain enough friends, our authority will vanish. Counselor Varen replied, it is already vanishing. They have shown the galaxy that our rules are not unbreakable. They have broken nothing, yet they have undone everything. As the meeting continued, messages poured in from across the galaxy. Worlds that once feared to speak against the Council now asked for human assistance. The Council could see the shift in power happening in real time, and they had no answer. On the Aurora, Daniel stood at the observation deck, looking out at the swirling clouds of a nearby gas giant. He thought of the years spent in secrecy, the risk of failure, and the long nights of planning. Now, the plan was working. Mara approached. Orders, Captain. Daniel smiled faintly. We keep moving. We have more worlds to visit. The Council will follow, but they will always be a step behind. The fleet moved on, each jump leaving the old order weaker than before. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was the one shaping it. The Council had once watched humanity as if they were a young student. Now, they could only watch as humanity became a teacher one the galaxy could not ignore. The stars blinked cold and distant as the human fleet returned to Varelia Prime. The once quiet orbit of the Council's capital now buzzed with the presence of dozens of warships from many species. The Council's fleet had gathered in response to the humans' bold moves in the outer sectors. They intended to stop this new threat once and for all. Captain Daniel stood on the command deck of the flagship Aurora, watching the Council warships arrayed like a net around them. His crew moved with steady purpose, knowing the stakes were higher than ever. The Council's fleet was larger and better armed. But Daniel understood one thing clearly. Their pulse shift drive made traditional blockades useless. The humans did not need to move through gates or corridors. They could appear anywhere. The Aurora's communications officer, Mara, reported, "Council vessels are hailing us. They demand immediate surrender and removal from Council space." Daniel nodded. "Put them through." A tall, robed figure appeared on the screen. His face was sharp, eyes hard. This was Speaker Jorvik, leader of the Council, Human Fleet. Jorvik said with cold authority, "You have defied our laws and threatened the order of the galaxy. You will surrender your ships and technology immediately." Daniel met Jorvik's gaze. "We have no intention of surrendering. We have come to show that freedom of travel is a right for all, not a privilege for few." Jorvik's eyes narrowed. "You force us to respond. Our fleet will stop you," Mara reported. "Weapons systems are charging on Council vessels." Daniel's voice was calm but firm. "Prepare for pulse shift maneuver." The human ships shimmered and vanished. They reappeared moments later behind the Council fleet. Above the Council station itself, a murmur rippled through the Council ships. They had expected a fight in open space, not a sudden appearance at the heart of their power. "Your blockade is meaningless," Daniel said through the comms. "We do not come with war. We come with a message. The stars belong to all." Despite his words, some Council vessels fired warning shots, their energy bolts lighting the void. The humans held their fire. Their ships formed a protective circle around the Council station, shields glowing softly. Jorvik's voice was strained. "Withdraw or we will be forced to attack." Daniel responded, "We will withdraw if you agree to share control of travel with all species. No more gates. No more restrictions." The Council warships hesitated. The threat of open battle was real, but the humans had shown that brute force could not stop them. The standoff lasted hours. Negotiations were tense. Eventually, Jorvik agreed to a temporary truce to discuss terms. Captain Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The Council's power was slipping, and they would not give up easily. As the human fleet disengaged, smaller ships from free worlds began to arrive at Varelia Prime, eager to witness the new era. Below, on the planet, citizens watched news feeds with hope and fear. The old order was breaking. Daniel stood on the observation deck, feeling the weight of history. "We have opened the door," he said quietly. Mara smiled. "Now it's time to walk through it." The galaxy was changing, and humanity led the way. The Powerless Council could only watch in shock as their control slipped away. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone could have imagined. After the stand at Varelia Prime, the Council's hold over star travel was broken. The ancient network of wormhole gates was no longer the only way to cross the vast distances between stars. Humanity's pulse shift drive had opened new spots free from control and fear. Captain Daniel stood on the deck of the Aurora as the fleet prepared to leave Varelia orbit. The Council ships had withdrawn for now, but the tension remained. He knew this peace was fragile. "Where to next?" Mara asked, her eyes bright with hope. Daniel smiled. "Everywhere. We bring freedom to every world that wants it, across the galaxy." Small worlds began to send emissaries to the humans. Some had long suffered under Council control, their resources drained, their voices silenced. Now, they spoke openly. They asked for help to build their own pulse shift drives. They dreamed of exploring new stars on their own terms. On Varelia Prime, Speaker Jorvik sat in his chambers, staring at the star map glowing before him. His council was no longer the absolute ruler of travel. He had to accept that the galaxy's future was no longer in their hands alone. We must adapt, he said quietly to his closest advisors, or become history. Meanwhile, the human fleet moved like a wave through the stars. Each jump connected distant systems, linking new allies and trading partners. Trade routes opened where there had been none. Old borders blurred as free travel became the norm. At Earth's capital, Ambassador Claire spoke to the United Worlds Assembly. We have begun a new chapter, one where no species holds the keys to the stars alone. This is a time for cooperation, not conquest. Her words were met with applause from many worlds, though some remained wary. Change was difficult, especially for those who once held power. Captain Daniel watched the stars from the Aurora's observation deck. He thought of the journey, the long years of preparation, the risks, and the courage of those who believed in a better future. Suddenly, the comm system beeped. Mara's voice came through. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from a new world. They request assistance to build their own drive. Daniel's smile grew wider. Tell them we're coming. The pulse shift drive was no longer a secret. It belonged to the galaxy now, and humanity had become its messenger. Far away, the Council watched these events with mixed feelings. Some wished to fight, to reclaim their lost power. Others saw opportunity, new alliances, new ways to lead. But one thing was clear. The age of controlled travel was over. The stars were free. A new dawn had arrived.